So always feel free to use that as your tool. There's a lot of good information in it. But let's go ahead and get started. So what you see on the screen is the session that I sent you yesterday. And that's what the way I included you, the way I sent you that email is the way that I would also invite anyone to a session. It had in there the link, it had troubleshooting information, and it told you to connect to test your network and your connection before attending the meeting. That way, if there's any type of technology glitches, you can do that before the meeting actually starts. So let's get started. As you see, you have create new meeting. This is where you'll go to create a name. We'll just do test. Let's do test 9. So I think I've got another test in there. And then you can create a custom URL. I would recommend this because you may have other trainings or other sessions listed and you don't want to get them confused. This is also the link that your participants will see. So you want to make sure it's something unique to them that they can identify with the session. Feel free to include a summary if you'd like. I typically don't do that. You'll need to create a start time. This will be the date and the time that you'll want the meeting to be held. I recommend, if you're going to do an Adobe Connect session, opening it up at least an hour in advance. That way it gives the participants time to go in the room, to get familiar. It also gives you time in case there are any technology glitches and you can correct them before the session starts. Duration, the number of hours and minutes that you expect the session to last. Always want to choose English. Anything with that red asterisk you have to include. Access. The only option you need to worry about is anyone with the URL for this meeting can enter the room. That's what I was telling you about with the URL that you received from me. And this is saying that anyone that you send that to in an email can enter this session. Audio conferencing is not something that we have used. If you would like, there is a conference number that you can get from Monty Chrisman. That's just not something that I've had to use in the past. Once you've entered in all this information, you'll click Next. And here you have the option of selecting participants. I would not use this function. Like I said, I would send this to them in an email. You can also create a calendar invite so it's automatically on their Google Calendar. So here I would just click Next. And this is where you receive the URL information. So my recommendation would be to copy and paste all of the information in this message body. What it is it's telling them about the meeting. This is what you received from me yesterday. It's got the connection information, test your connection, a quick overview, and here's the join meeting. To join the meeting, you click on that URL. You click on that URL. So you could copy that and paste that into either the Google Calendar or a Google invite from your email address. Once you click Finish, you see your meeting information. You have the name, you have the start time, the duration, the URL. Anyone that has the URL can enter the meeting room. That's pretty much creating a meeting in that's an overview. You have any questions about that? Nope.
And also note, meetings can be used over and over again. So if you're creating a meeting for a class, Math 271, you can use that same meeting multiple times. You're just going to need to go in and change the start time, the duration. So you can use one meeting for an entire class, the whole semester. If you're doing a departmental meeting, like Seth may be doing, if he wants to do one that says, a visa training, he can use that same one over and over, or you can make multiple meetings, whatever works best for you. You just got to go back and change the start time and duration when you reuse a meeting. But that same link, if they've got that same link, they can continue to use that, even if you've tweaked the start times and so forth. So you can send out a link at the beginning of the semester and say, we're going to use this link all the way through the semester for our, virtual office time or whatever you want to use it for. That link will be stable all the way forever.
Okay, so now we're going to actually go into the link that I sent you yesterday. So if you have your laptops with you, feel free to follow along. So at this point, this would be once the participants have received the link and you're ready to start recording your session.
I think it's already open, Dacia, that might be.
Where is it?
Look behind it. Hover over the Internet Explorer icon down at the bottom.
Here we go. So we are now in the session. As you'll notice, David Riddle, I'm David today, is listed as the host. Our participants, so we have a lot of people that are probably viewing from their desk. We have Chris M., Chris Oliver, we have Jim, Seth, Shelley. Hello everyone, we have Susan, we have Tiffany. All of these people are listed under what you see as participants. You also will see a chat icon down here. This is really helpful, especially when you're in the session and people may have questions. You're able to see what they're typing. You can, create a response, and it's in real time. You can also do a private chat. You see here it says everyone. You have the option of only including the people that you would like to see. So if you don't want everyone to see everything, they don't have to. And you see Chris Oliver says yes. Everyone's gonna, at this point, anyone that wants to respond can respond and everyone sees their responses. Okay, so let's talk about, you've now entered the room. You see everything that's on the screen, everything that I'm seeing, you're seeing. At this point, you're going to want to make sure that if you have a webcam installed, you want to make sure that it's working correctly. And this is for video. And you have an icon at the top middle of your screen that says Start My Webcam. If you want to include that, you'll need to start your webcam to allow access. And you notice then, you see me on screen, and anything that's green is showing up as good. Remember, green means go. So anything that's green is active, it's ready, it's working appropriately. Your audio. You always want to make sure that you connect your audio as well. And you can see anytime that I'm speaking, you'll see the volume increase. So we know that that's working as well.
I don't
Yes.
think the webcam is transmitting though.
She's not sharing yet.
How about now?
No, it is.
Okay. Yeah, you always want to, because I'm in this session and everyone can see me on the other screens, you want to make sure that you start sharing, and once you're sharing, you can always cancel it at any point by clicking the stop button. Okay, so we've now shared our video, but we also want to share any information that we may be covering in the session. So my recommendation would be, you have a couple of different tabs. You can share your screen, share a document, or share a whiteboard. The whiteboard is pretty much what you have here, like the smart board. Any kind of if you want to draw, if you want to write, that sort of thing. Sharing a document, they're only going to see that document. It can be a PowerPoint presentation, it can be a Word doc, it can be anything that you want them to only have access to that information. If you're like myself, I would prefer to just share my screen. That way, anything that I want them to see in that session, I don't have to, toggle back and forth between certain things. I can go, I have access to all of my files, to my email account, anything that I'd like them to see on screen without having to go back and forth or upload a document beforehand. So let's go ahead and do this. And it's going to ask you, it's going to give you a preview of what you're getting ready to share, just to make sure it is exactly what you're planning to present. Once you click share, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner what you're currently sharing. So that is what the participants are seeing on their end. But remember, at this point, you're sharing you have your video up, you have your audio working, but you haven't started to record anything. So your next step will be to record your meeting. In order to do that, you're going to want to go to Meeting and Record Meeting. It's going to ask you for the name. And here again, I would make sure that the URL that you customize also directly links to the recorded meeting name. That way when you go back in to view your recording, you're able to pick it from the list that you'll see. And click OK. You see here, you're now recording your meeting. You have a couple of options. You can pause at any time, or you can stop your recording. And this here, the red means that it's recording. Up here, the green means that you're good. So we've got a couple of different colors to remember. Once you've started recording your meeting, also you can promote anyone. So say that I am presenting with Chris Oliver, and I've completed my part of the session, and I need to promote her to a presenter. In order to do that, the only thing you'll need to do is hover over her name, and you can make her a host or a presenter. The host, the only difference with the host is they have more capabilities. You can upload a document, you can share a screen. A presenter is not able to change roles. So as the host, she can also promote someone to a presenter. However, if she is just a presenter, she can't promote someone else.
And the presenter role is going to allow them to share their webcam with people, run a PowerPoint, view a document, anything a presenter would normally, you think a presenter would do, they'll be able to do that. They just can't promote other people, they can't end the meeting and so forth. So it gives them more than enough access to be able to do what they need to do without taking over the meeting.
That's correct. And your presenter, your participants, if you're a participant on a session, you don't need a webcam. I mean, that's basically for the presenter or the host. No one that's listed as a guest really needs that access. We're not looking at each other during the meeting. I think one of the nicest features about this is that the ability for multiple people all over the campus can actually get into a meeting, they can communicate, and switch roles within Adobe Connect. That's one of the greatest features, is just the ability of presenting, and no matter where you are. You can be in your desk, in your office, you could be at home. As long as you have internet connection and the URL, then you're able to get in and actually complete the session.
One of the most interesting uses I saw of it, for one of George Clayton's classes, he has a lady that lives in Raleigh that presents to the class, and she used to come down once a semester and give her talk to the class. But George switched over to an online format, and it still wouldn't have the same speaker. He now uses Adobe Connect, connects in with her. She's got a webcam, and she comes in and talks to the class via Adobe Connect. So now you'll still be able to bring that live person to the class, even on an online environment.
Anyone have any questions at this point before we move on? So we've talked about how to create a meeting. We've talked about recording our meeting. We've talked about our participants, our hosts, and our guests, our chat function, the ability to have audio, video, and how to share your screen. Any questions about that before we go into stop recording and where the information can be found? No? Okay. So let's say we created this great presentation. You know it was fantastic. Everyone online is chatting about rave reviews of how well you've done everything, and you're ready to stop your presentation. This is your friend, this button. So we know that the session is currently being recorded. We're ready to end the session. We're going to stop recording. At this point, they're no longer recording your session. They'll still be able to see you. They'll still be able to see the session as open, but they're no longer seeing your webcam or anything that you're sharing on your desktop. Now you're going to want to end the meeting. And in order to do this, you click on Meeting, End Meeting, and this is going to send a nice thank you message to let everyone know, thank you for attending this great PD session. Forgive me, I always want to go to Firefox is my friend. Everybody else uses Internet Explorer except for me, I think. We're going to want to, so say that there were people that couldn't attend our meeting that had planned to and they took vacation, or they had a sick child at home, or maybe they just decided, it's not something that I want to go to, but I would like to see it later on. We now need to send them our recording, or it could be what I currently do, and you want to put that up on your Blackboard site. Maybe you've had a class and you want to record this session, put it on your Blackboard site. You now need to know, where can I go to find this recording? And in Adobe Connect, under Meetings, you will see Recordings. Here we go. There we go. So you can tell that David and I have prepared very well for this session. We've got a test 6 and a test 9. Your test 9 is what we actually created today. And you notice that I sent you the professional development session in advance. That's also listed here. But what we want is the newest session, which was the one that we started today at approximately 11 o'clock. This is a good way for you to remember when I told you, make sure that you create the URL and you name your session accordingly. Because without knowing which session to pick from, if you have a lot, it's really easy to get lost in which is the newest session. So once you've clicked the newest session that you've started and you've recorded, you're going to want to click This is yours. So let me just explain what's happening. Because I'm logged in as David and I created the PD session, we're no longer going to be able to use that one. We're going to use one that we've done in the past. And what you want to do is, once you've set the recording and you've ended your meeting, you know that you've recorded your session, you're now going to want the URL to send out to participants or to put on your Blackboard site. And what you can do is you can make a FLV file, which is a movie file, in order to incorporate into Blackboard. And the way I've done this in the past is I've embedded the code. So once I've created the FLV file, I can embed the code in Blackboard and it plays as if it's like a YouTube video. It makes it really simple and you actually have a play button on the video.
FLV file, just kind of for further information, is a Flash file created by Adobe Flash. So as long as their players are updated on the web browsers.
Mm-hmm. And I would also recommend that anyone that uses a video file and embeds that in Blackboard, make sure you tell your participants or students that they'll need to be in Internet Explorer to view those videos, and they'll need to display all content. A lot of times I get the question of, I'm in Chrome or Firefox, and for some reason the Blackboard site and the way that we have it, secured here, the videos do not play well in any other web browser. Internet Explorer and display all content. And here you have your video. So it actually shows you a preview screen of what you've just recorded.
You've got a second option as far as viewing the videos as well. The recording becomes a link also, and you can email.
Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to this webinar
Video.
brought to you by the Office of Grants and sponsored program.
But you've got a link. You can put the link in Blackboard if you don't want to just upload the file, and that will circumnavigate some of the Adobe Flash problems, because it's just maybe it won't. It's just a file hosted on their site that may circumnavigate some of the problems you have with Flash. Just in the link rather than uploading and embedding the video.
Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to this webinar
where you can
brought to
edit,
you by the Office of Grants.
in Adobe Connect if you choose to do so. I would not recommend that. What we currently use is Movie Maker if you're going to edit any of your videos. Any questions at this point? No. So how do you feel about creating an Adobe Connect session?
I feel pretty good about it. I mean, I tried using Adobe Connect a while back, and couldn't fumble my way through it, unfortunately. But this helps.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear. It's one of those things where, and I'll always be honest, with the technology, there is, I don't think I've ever created a session where it worked perfectly every single time. Just to give you an idea, David and I we worked on this session about 4 different times. And every time that you do it, something's a little different, and you have to kind of work your way through it. So just want everyone to know that don't get frustrated, because even the people that do this on a regular basis, there's always something that you kind of have to work your way around. But once you have your recorded session and you're able to view it, it's so much better, because you don't have to continuously do the same material over and over. You actually have that information available.
When you run into technical difficulties, most likely it's an Adobe Flash or a Java update issue. I think when we came in here, we had to update or allow the Java for it to work yesterday afternoon. So it's just a simple click of upload whatever it tells you it's missing, and that fixes it 9 times out of 10.
I also wanted to tell you too that we have, there is a license requirement for Adobe Connect, and there are host licenses available, and that's basically by department. But if anyone wants to present or create a session, all you'll need to know, you can contact David. He has a host license, and he, like I told you, he can make you the presenter or the host. And as long as he has that session open, you can run it as if you were hosting the session by yourself. You have all the capabilities, all the different options, and you don't actually have to have a license yourself.
Right. Most departments do have license, but if you don't and need to, I'll just email me and I'll set up a meeting. What I'll typically do is name it what you want it named. I'll have it set up to begin and end when you want to. I'll go in beforehand and make sure that you're in. I'll present you to host so that you've got all the privileges, and then I'll just minimize the screen, and then I'll just check back later and make sure everything is okay.
Anything else you want to see, or any other questions you might have? No? Let me ask on the other campuses. Shelley, anyone in Pittsburgh or Harnett have any questions or anything that they'd like to see?
What are some other options that this has compared to like Google Hangouts?
Google Hangout is more, and I've used Google Hangout, that's a good question. When I used Google Hangout, we used it as, I was on the North Carolina Community College Leadership program, and there was various people from all over the system, from all over the community college system. And I found with Google Hangout, it was much more difficult to share your screen. We could share documents, but in terms of sharing our entire screen, we weren't able to do so. Now, as far as the chatting capability and being able to see, the participants, the names, the video conferencing, all of that was the same, but we were having to upload our documents in advance, like I told you could do with Adobe Connect, but we weren't able to share our screen. And the promotion of, the host versus the presenter, I don't remember that being an option. Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions? Well, if that's it, we're getting out ahead of time, so I was a little nervous that I would actually go over, but I think with a lot of prep work, we ended ahead of schedule. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but if you do have any more technical questions or you want more in-depth training, feel free to reach out to me or David, and we'd be happy to help you or come to your departments and present more information. Or if you ever get stuck and you're just like, not sure what I'm doing here, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.